So I'd like to welcome Jason Abrams.
Are we on here? Can you guys hear me? Does this sound good? Is that me? All right, well, I can't fix any of that. Can you guys hear me in the back? Am I good? Okay, then let's go sans microphone here. Okay, so yeah, I did all of that stuff. Did any of you guys see the TV show? Anybody? One of you? Hey, thanks for your support. That's fantastic. A lot of other people saw it, just not you guys, and it's okay. And that's good because we're not going to talk about that TV show today because there's nothing that happened on that show that prepares any of us for the changes that are coming in our industry. And I'm committed this year to talking about these changes as often as I can. You see, it's my 20th year selling houses. And every year there were little challenges within the marketplace, and every year we had to change little things. But this is the first year that we've kind of had to look up and change almost everything. Mainly because whether we like it or not, our entire industry is under assault by all kinds of forces that are not our own. Now, why this is happening and how it's going to manifest itself is important to discuss. And we have to talk about it in rooms of realtors because I don't think that anybody is coming to our aid. Meaning, like, I don't think that NAR is going to rescue us. I don't think they have any idea what's going on at all. I mean, they do have that new logo, which is awesome. But I don't think that they're, like, rushing to our rescue. And I think that the reason our industry is changing, it's not just because of technology. It's because the consumer is actually adopting technology. There's always been different technology avenues for all sorts of industries. But right now, when it comes to residential real estate, the consumer is clamoring to do things a new way. I would much prefer if we went back to the old way, by the way. I just don't think I get a say in it. Like, I remember there was an elegance about the residential real estate business 20 years ago that doesn't really seem to exist today. And little things have taken away from it, like DocuSign and AuthentiSign, and they're great and they're convenient, but when you used to sign paperwork, those of you will remember, you used to do it in people's houses, like at their kitchen tables or in their living rooms, and there was this relationship that was formed. Like, just doing paperwork, you used to have like carbon paper, you had to like push really hard and do 6 copies and they have to sign all 6. Like, it used to take time. And that time turned into a relationship, and that relationship turned into caring about each other. And when you remove that from the industry, it's really easy to get replaced. See, what happens is if you make things too easy, people don't need you anymore. I'm not suggesting we're there yet. I'm really not. What I am suggesting, though, is that technology and the companies that are controlling it are doing their best to get us there as fast as possible. And if we don't wake up as an industry, we're in danger of becoming extinct. And now, I don't mean extinct like there won't be any of us left. I mean extinct like there just won't be enough of us left to matter. And for me, it's a non-starter. I can't let that happen. Mainly because I graduated high school with a 1.8 GPA, and they don't let people like me be doctors. Like, this is it. Like, I don't know another profession that I can make the kind of money I make selling houses. And I've looked, and I don't know it. I've looked at franchises. I want to tell you, the average franchise owner, whether it's McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts or Burger King, they make about 85 grand. Think about what you have to do to make that 85 grand. You got to get approved for the franchise. You got to open up. You have to staff it with a bunch of people that make, I don't know, $12 an hour, which if you haven't had a bunch of those people in your life, you don't know what you're missing. It is really something. And you do all of these things and take on all this liability in order to make 85 grand. And we all kind of chuckle because we know how much money we make in the real estate business. So I'm not willing to let this golden goose die. But it's really important that you're not willing to either. Because one of us can't stop the train that's coming. And I think the first step in this is understanding how it's happening, why it's happening, and the way this change manifests itself. This isn't the first time technology has changed an industry. This kind of thing happens all the time. As a matter of fact, you're going to start to see this cycle that I'm describing right now repeat itself time and time and time again. And the cycle always happens the exact same way. It's always the same. You see, what happens is we have relative periods. All right, I can't write and hold the mic at the same time, so bear with me. What happens is that we have calm. Everything in the industry is calm. Everything is all good. And then we have innovation, which I don't know how to spell. It's close. And then we have crazy. And right in between calm and crazy, money comes in. And then we have consolidation. And then we're right back to calm. And this happens constantly. And it's happening in our industry right now, but you have to understand where we are in this cycle, because we're at this pivotal point. So every industry that goes through change starts with calm. Think about any other industry other than ours that has changed. Think about taxi cabs. Yeah. Think about black cars and rental cars and all these things. There was complete calm in that industry. Everyone knew how to get a ride. It was good. If you were a business traveler, you called ahead and you got a town car. If not, you flagged a cab. Then you have innovation. You have Uber that comes in. By the way, did anyone see Uber's evaluation yesterday? Anyone see that? $120 billion. That's their evaluation. They're looking for a Q1 IPO. That means that that company right now has a larger market cap and is worth more than all of the auto companies. GM, Chrysler, Ford, added together. And they don't own a single car. That's an amazing thing to think about. Because once that innovation happened, money pours in. You have Lyft that shows up. You have micro markets that have showed up. Money pours in, and all of a sudden you have crazy. Raise your hand if you have Uber or Lyft on your phone as an app. Now look around. We can all agree consolidation has happened, and we're right back to calm again. All good and fast. Look at airline tickets. Does everyone remember when you used to buy them and call? And you would, like, my mom still does this. I have a Jewish mother, and so she refuses to use the interweb. So she calls to still make her airline tickets. But the rest of us have moved on. Innovation happens, right? Orbits. Then money pours in. How many different travel sites are there? I mean, there's thousands. Kayak is a site just to search the sites. Like, that's how crazy it got. Raise your hand if you've bought something on Travelocity or Orbitz. Okay, looks like it worked. Consolidation happens, and we're right back to calm again. Think of Blockbuster. You had calm, all good. Everyone knew how to use it, no problem. Friday night, booked. Innovation, Redbox. All of a sudden, you have a vending machine at a grocery store that spits out DVDs. There's not even a no rewind fee. It's so much easier. It's great. Then money pours in. Think about how much money. Think about how many different ways there are to stream video content. Hell, think about how many devices there are just to watch the same content. And now raise your hand if you have Netflix. And perfect. Great. Consolidation happened, and we're right back to calm again. And I can go on, and we could keep doing this. And we could talk about all of the times that this cycle has played itself out. It's happening right now in our industry. And it's happening really fast. Think about how long we had calm for in the residential real estate industry. I want to tell you, we had calm forever. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. The only thing that's changed is the technology we use to still use the exact same scripts and run the exact same lead generation models. There's nothing different about the headset phone people today, except we're using an auto dialer. It's the same model. We still go door to door. We're still doing open house. What's the amazing innovation that's changed the way open houses are done? I mean, besides the balloon. Like, nothing. Like, it's the same thing. Now, we have innovation. Zillow. Zillow is born Q4 of 06. That's like yesterday as far as I'm concerned. We're talking, what, 10 years or 12 years or something like that? Then money pours in. Now this money, this is crazy. This money comes from all of these hedge funds and banks in the East. And the money comes from the East. And here's what happens when Wall Street wants to change industries. And you guys know why they want to change ours, right? They woke up during the last recession. There was 4.6 million homes that sold during the last recession, and the banks and the hedge funds were involved in a lot of them. Think about every short sale that you did, and every REO property that you did, and every loan modification that was done. The banks and hedge funds, they're smart. And they know that profit is made through expense management. And by the way, if you're running a business right now, write that one down. Because a lot of us are confused on how profit's made. Profit isn't made because of revenue only. You make money because you manage your expenses. If you spend everything you make, it doesn't matter how much you made. And our industry is completely whacked on the way that we do awards, where we celebrate a bunch of people that sell a bunch of units. What difference does any of that make? We should be focusing on net income. That's the award we should give. Not who has the highest volume or who has their face on more billboards. Glover wins again. But how much money you actually take home. That's the scoreboard that matters. And banks and hedge funds know that. And what they did is they looked up at those balance sheets at the end of it and they said, oh my gosh, what are these line items? These numbers are crazy. What is this? And someone said, that's realtor buyer's agent commission. And they said, well, what's this one? They said, that's listing agent commission. And they said, well, let's take that back. I really think that happened. I really think it happened, and I really think that you're watching the banks and hedge funds now, and if you're paying attention, sub-loans are coming back again. People are lining up that probably shouldn't get mortgages that are. Thank God that there's real estate and mortgage companies like this one that are actually holding the line on responsible home ownership. Because the banks and hedge funds know next time they're going to make even more money being in the center of all these transactions, especially if they get rid of all of us. And so what happens is they give low interest rate loans to hedge funds and venture capitalists, who then turn around and give high interest rate loans to technology companies in the form of angel dollars. So tech is funded in the East and it's created in the West, and then it moves across the country. And historically speaking, for the residential real estate business, it gets stopped about Vegas. Like every bad idea dies in Vegas. Arizona, Vegas, those markets are so big, and they're test markets, including California, for everything stupid. And the people there are willing to try anything. They're not like Midwest values. They're like, new idea, I'm in. And before you know it, these bad ideas run out of steam. That's how it used to be. But now, because of this money sign right here, they have enough money to be testing these bad ideas all over the country. Now, these tech groups, they break into three categories. But I want you to understand, on this chart, we are living right now in crazy. I mean, you call it what it is. The money has poured in. We are absolutely in crazy town right now. Think about your life right now. Think about how many places your consumer can go look for properties online. How many sites are there to search for stuff? How many sites are there to get bad comps? I mean, I can send bad comps. I'm a realtor. I don't need another site to do that for me. Like, think about how much stuff is being sold to you guys. Like, just selling stuff to us is $1 billion industry now. Forget the consumer. Think about how many different ways there are for them to get a loan, or for them to find a realtor, or for them to dream about home ownership. Think about how many different brokerage models there are right now. You ever go on Facebook and you see every realtor's talking about whether their brokerage house is better than your brokerage house and all of this sort of thing? Have you noticed this is picking up? We're even fighting broker wars right now during crazy time. And a lot of these brokers are underpinned by Wall Street money. And these different models, yeah, they're disruptive, sure, but they don't necessarily serve to galvanize us as an industry. We're in crazy. But here's the problem with being in crazy. I don't know how this is going to manifest itself. And in the last examples, everybody raised their hand, and we saw consolidation in action. How does that happen in residential real estate? I don't know the answer. I know that these tech companies break into three groups, and you have to understand all three of them. The first group, they truly believe the consumer is better represented without a real estate agent. And they believe that that's a really easy thing to accomplish if they leverage technology. Think OfferPad, Open Door. Do you have these direct iBuyers in your market yet? If you don't, they're coming. What happens is they believe that they can just get the seller to say, I want to sell, and then they're willing to give them a cash offer. We're starting to see this explode. It's tested now in 9 markets. OfferPad and Open Door have a combined $1.8 billion slush fund to buy real estate, mostly on loan to them from SoftBank. So call it $900 million each. I just want you, everyone says to me, Jason, do you think it'll work? I don't know. I know, though, that you can be wrong for a long time if you have $900 million of somebody else's money. Like, you can be a thorn in my side for the next 5 years if you're spending someone else's cash. I get that. And money is cheap now. See, it's different than, do you remember when $100 million was like a lot of money? It's really not anymore. Go on CNBC and try to find one article where we talk about some little amount like 100 million. That doesn't even make the news. 900 million to our competitors that think they can do business without us. So here's what they believe. And you think about it as I'm saying it, and you tell me if you think they're crazy. They think they can generate the lead online. No realtor needed. Then they think they can incubate that lead from someone on a headset anywhere in the world. Then they think if it's a seller, they can just make a direct offer to them. Then they think they can do transaction coordination from anywhere on the planet. And thanks to DocuSign and AuthentiSign, they probably can. And then they think that using a national escrow and title company, they can close, all by mail. Does it sound so crazy to you? Then you say, wait a minute, but the other side, they got buyers. They can't do that for the buyers. They need realtors at some point. Maybe in that scenario, they would need realtors to turn the keys and let people actually into the homes, right? But in San Francisco, as we sit here right now, they're testing the open house on demand model, which are cameras that they mount at the front of the house. You walk up to the house, you show your ID, it looks at your face, quick background check, boom, the door opens. You show yourself the house. Then when you walk out, it locks behind you. The technology is there. It's been there. Now it's just being used in the real estate business. That group scares me to death. Not because I think the consumer wants to be by themselves. I don't. But simply because they have the technology to pull it off. And they have the money. You got to look at it. If you go into Atlanta and you spend 2 hours in your car, you'll hear at least 5 ads on any talk radio station. By the way, that's talk radio, conservative or Democratic. They don't care. It turns out they're good either way. For open door offer pad, make offers on your houses. Guaranteed. Dallas, same thing. Phoenix, same thing. California, Vegas, same things. Coming to a market near you soon. Now, group number 2, they're a little easier on us. They don't really think that we should be replaced as real estate agents. They just think we should make less money, which, by the way, I'm not good with. But they think they can do almost everything from a third-party location, and they just need us to do the part of the job that we're really competent to do. Like we could deliver the flyers. We can't write them because of the spelling, but we could deliver them. We could order the signs up, maybe. We could probably do that. The photographer, we got that. We could be there for the home inspections because we add so much value to that part of the transaction. They think we could do that stuff, but they don't want us to make 6%. They want us to make more like 0.75%. And that's really problematic for me also. Now the third group is the group I'm betting on. The third group truly believes that the consumer is best served when the realtor is at the center of the transaction, acting as a true fiduciary. And that's where Treadstone comes in, because they're at the forefront of helping fund this group. This is the group that bets on real estate agents long term. You see, I believe, and I could be really wrong, so nod if you agree, I think the consumer is completely clueless about how residential real estate works. As a matter of fact, I use evidence of this that I think most realtors are completely clueless on how residential real estate works. Maybe it's just the agents I'm co-oping with, but I want to tell you, I'm worried. But because the consumer is confused, I think it allows us to stay relevant. You see, I don't believe that we're ever going to get to a time where the majority of people do not want human interaction with a realtor. I don't think people want to swipe right to buy a house. I don't believe that. I think some will, but the vast majority won't. And I think the reason they won't is because they have absolutely no financial education or literacy in general, but they're really confused about housing. I don't think they get the process. I don't think they have any clue. And I think that all of the other industries I mentioned, from the taxi to Blockbuster to airline tickets, and we could go on, they were easy to replace those companies because the consumer was never confused on how to use the products. I mean, none of you were confused at Blockbuster, ever. It wasn't like you walked in and you were like, I just don't get it. I don't even know, where do I stick this? None of us did that. None of us were ever confused about how to get in a car. Airline tickets, even on your worst day, you figured it out. So, I don't think it's a problem. But for housing, it is. I want to submit to you that I think that the housing industry is really similar to the financial services industry in where we're headed. So raise your hand if you have a financial advisor of some sort. Okay, now keep them up for a second. And now everyone look around, just so we can prove this point. Consolidation has happened in that industry too. Every one of us have them. Now, raise your hand if you read your statements every month. A lot fewer hands. Some of us raised, but a lot fewer. I think, and I would submit to you, the reason that we use a financial advisor is because we're confused about their industry. Not necessarily how it works. I give you $1 today, you give me $2 back 10 years from now. I get that part. But how does it happen? How does modern portfolio theory work? Where do I put my allocations? Do I buy stocks or bonds or mid caps or large caps or Forex or what do I do with my money? All of you, I think, could figure it out. But you choose not to. You choose to have a financial advisor. Do you think your financial advisor knows what's going to happen in the market this month? Like, I think I pay a lot for my guy, and I like him. He's a great guy if he's watching this. But I don't think he's got any idea more than I do. Like, I don't think Trump is calling him at 3 a.m. I'm like, hey, I'm about to blow it up with a tax. Watch this, Saudi Arabia. I don't think any of that's happening. Like, I think he's as surprised as I am when he wakes up and the market drops 1,300 points in 2 days and then comes back 500 points. How many of you got a phone call from your advisor when the market dropped 1,300 points in 2 days last week? Raise your hand high. 2 of us. I'm going to put my hand down. 2 of you. How many of you got a call 2 days ago when the market went up 500 points in one trading session? And your advisor said, I got a bunch of ideas, here's what we should do. Get your hands up if that had one of us, one of you, I say. My guy didn't call again. It's weird. Well, why not? Like, why didn't he call? Because the fact of the matter is, there's a million platforms, because they already went through this. Think of what happened there. Innovation happens. And all of a sudden, with E-Trade, anyone could go out and buy their own stocks and bonds. For a pittance of what you're paying your financial advisor in basis points, you're all paying between 50 and 150 bips, I bet, on all the assets you have under management, just like I am. Yet we don't do it. We all decided to stay there. Do you realize there are more financial advisors today than ever before? And that they're charging more per dollar managed than ever before in history? That industry figured it out. And that's what we need to do. We got to figure it out. So how did they do it? Number one, they based the entire concept on fear. They knew that the consumer is scared to death to be wrong about their own money. So they placed that fear in the hands of their financial advisor so they can feel good about sending them the cash. Like, I know my wife makes me have a financial advisor because she knows I'm an idiot. Like, she knows I'm getting emotional about stocks, and she says, Jason, you take so many risks in your business life, we need to have our safe money somewhere. I'm like, okay, safe money. That sounds great. Let's put that in the hands of companies we've never met who we have no idea what's happening in their boardrooms and call it safe. Let's do that. She's like, perfect. So that's what we do in my house. It's great. I think the consumer is as afraid of housing as they are of managing their own money. I don't think they get it. I don't think they get the markets. And I think that's what's going to keep us safe. But that's not enough. You see, we have to take the next step in staying safe, which is spending more time acting as a fiduciary than acting as a functionary. And most realtors aren't really sure on the difference, and the consumer really isn't sure on the difference. You see, the real estate business has always broken into those 2 parts. You have the functionary side and the fiduciary side. And the functionary side, and this isn't my content, but the concept is good, is everything that could be done by either A, artificial intelligence, or B, some VA in Singapore. Think about it. And the consumer thinks that's what we do for a living. Put it on the MLS, make the comment section, spell it right, put the lockbox on, order the sign, take the photos, all of those things. That's not why we make 6%. That's not what we get paid for. We get paid for the fiduciary side, which is when we listen and understand what our consumers want and then give them advice that furthers their path in life. That's what we get paid for. That's what a fiduciary does. That's what your financial advisor is supposed to be doing. Although mine's not. Weird. But that's what they're supposed to be doing. So how does this manifest itself in the day and age of technology? It's because you have a bunch of functionary acting like fiduciary. Like Zillow. Zillow only does 2 things. It gives search and bad comps. That's it. That's all you can do with it. That's the innovation that changed our entire planet. That's it. But everyone gets the same experience, and that's functionary. So if Jimmy here goes on to Zillow and puts in one address, and Amy goes on and puts in the same address, they're going to have the same experience. They're going to get the same screen, they're going to get the same map, they're going to get the same comps, and they're going to get the same stupid zestimate. That's functionary, posing as fiduciary. Because if you went to Amy's house and Amy said, I'm rich, life's awesome, I don't care if I ever sell, I don't care if it takes 5 years, I want to get 20% higher than the most expensive comp in my neighborhood, take your time. And then you went to Jimmy's house, no offense Jimmy, and Jimmy said, I'm broke. You wouldn't say it, but if he did, and he said, I haven't made a payment in 61 days, I need to be out of this house. Tell me you wouldn't give these people completely different pieces of advice. You wouldn't price these homes completely differently. You wouldn't have completely different appointments with them. The answer is you absolutely would. And that is the fiduciary coming to life. And Zillow can never do that. That's where we need to win. I believe that the way to beat technology is to get more human more often with more people. I believe that the way we keep our industry safe is we get back into our communities and get back to relationships with our customers. I don't think, though, that we can say we're going to do that the old school way without technology. I think that's stupid. I think there's a reason you all drove here instead of walking. We've all just accepted the car is a better deal. I would tell you there's parts of the real estate industry tech that are good pieces of tech to use. But only if you're using them as a compass to talk to more people and be more likable more often. I think the basic tenets of residential real estate is that those of us that work the hardest sell the most homes. I don't think that's changing. And I think this is a popularity contest based on likability. I don't think it's complicated. I always say there's 12 blanks on a purchase agreement, and 2 of them are your name. So don't tell me this is some complicated field. It's not. It's a popularity contest. And most of us happen to be really likable salespeople. And that's what the consumer gravitates to. So what I want to do is I want to talk through today the challenges that you guys are having if you're noticing them in your business. Because here's where we're at in the total cycle of things. We're coming off, and we're probably at the very tail end of the greatest residential real estate market the world has ever known. It's been awesome. And by the way, if you're looking up and you're saying it didn't feel that good, that's then on you. Because I just want to tell you, it's been awesome. We've had lower sustained interest rates over a longer period of time than ever before in history. We have the highest median sales price nationwide than ever before in history. We have better technology than ever before in history. We're making more commission, regardless of what Inman would have you believe, than ever before in history. And we're going to do, over a 3-year combined period, more transactions in 3 years than ever before in history. How many ever befores would you need before you'd agree with me that it's been awesome? Yeah. The problem for us in this room is that that awesomeness leads to 2 things. Number 1, it leads to somewhat of complacency, meaning that we have holes in our businesses that get overlooked, and we look much smarter than we are when the market's great. I know I'm not as good as my numbers say. The market's been awesome. But we don't look at those holes until all of a sudden we think it's changed. And what everybody says, by the way, is it changed overnight. It didn't. It never does. We just don't realize it until overnight. Then you look up and you realize your team or your business is a mess and you have to make changes. We've got to talk about that. The second thing that it does is the consumer gets lulled into this false sense that residential real estate is easy. During the last recession, that happened. The woman that delivers my mail, lovely lady. Well, she used to deliver. I think they fired her. But she was lovely. She told me during the peak of the last boom how many condos and rental properties she owned. And when I realized that the mail person owned more homes than I did, I knew something was off. I didn't know exactly what, and I didn't realize it until the end when I found out that everybody owned more real estate than I did. That was a real problem. And when the market changed and everything went to absolute heck overnight, all of a sudden, I was needed again. You couldn't confuse that website with my real estate license when the market changed. You're about to come into a change if you're not already in it. Who here thinks that this market's changing right now? You are 100% right. It's changing right now. Here's what happens when it changes always. There's a new group of agents. And if I had to guess from looking at the production of this room, you're probably sitting here, who is not the number 1 agent in the marketplace, but who is going to be very shortly. You see, the last time the market changed, we saw a bunch of people who we had never heard of before that became the #1 agents in town because they were the REO and short sale agents. Who remembers the group of realtors that went from 0 to hero in like a 2-year period? You know, the ones that wouldn't return your call? Where are those people now? I don't have any. Most of them are out. VH1's looking for them. They're gone. Who knows what happened to them? But that happens every time the market changes. Because you can make a lot of money when the market's going up. And you can make a lot of money when the market's going down. It's really hard to grow when it just stays the same. And this has been a really, really long boom. One of the unintended consequences of any real estate boom is that we get a lot of people become realtors. You got a lot of them in this town. How many of you are brand new agents within the last 6 months? Well, congratulations, and you guys are in an amazing room, so great to be here. We're going to talk badly about you for a second, if that's okay. So here's what happens. Every time there's a boom, the number of realtors nationwide skyrockets. It's never been higher than it is today. 1.78 million. We're going to cross 2 million in Q1 of 19. You know, 2 million realtors. You know what doesn't run congruently with the number of realtors? The number of sales. That's right. Last year we did 5.7 million sales. In the greatest year of the real estate boom, we did 6.4. In the worst year, we did 4.6. It just means that there's just not that big of a delta between the worst years and the best years. In this country, if we sell anywhere close to 6 million houses, that's a lot of houses. But at the end of the last recession, we only had 725,000 realtors. So the average number of sites per realtor was like 9. Now you're going to take 5.7 million and divide it by 2 million realtors. I don't know the math because I only do things in 3%. I bet you it's not very good though. It's probably kind of low. Meaning like the average site is probably like 3 or 4 per realtor. Who uses these new realtors? I mean, who would possibly do business with a new realtor? Right, friends and family. If you can't take advantage of your mom, you have a real problem. And they face this choice. It's either I do business with my son or my cousin or my neighbor, or I do business with a qualified professional. And son or neighbor win. That's hard for us. And by the way, that number doesn't start to go down just because the economy changes. That number of realtors keeps going up. Because to become a realtor, you have to plan in advance. You have to take the course and fail the test 3 times. And you go through this thing before you finally pass and get a real estate license because you got a C-. It's awesome. This is the challenge for us. And in today's day and age where we're getting more and more leads from online sources, the consumer has no way to judge whether or not they're talking to somebody qualified or not. Because anybody can swipe their credit card and buy a lead. Raise your hand if in one form or another you're buying leads over the internet from somebody, whoever it is. Raise them high so I want to get a feel for it. We're talking about like 35% of the room. Raise your hand if you're buying leads from Zillow. Any Zillows in the room? So you got Zillow, you got Realtor.com, you have the CRM. Raise your hand if you're using a third-party CRM of some sort. If this isn't the definition of crazy, then I don't know what is. Because I bet if I went person by person, we're all using different brands of CRMs. There's so many different models. Last year, Zillow sold 137 million leads to realtors. 137 million. This is a really important thing to talk about. There was only 5.7 million sales. They sold 137 million leads. By the way, just to make this even more nauseating, because why not? I'm good here. 44% of those 5.7 million sales were friends, family, and neighbor referrals through your SOI. So take out half. Now all of a sudden think Zillow sold 137 million leads to help realtors do 2.5 million sales. And you know what? We're paying more per lead than ever before. You can't even buy the zip codes that you want. Zillow has us all convinced that it works. How does that math work for any of you people? I don't understand it. I really don't. And by the way, the number of online leads that people are buying isn't going down anytime soon. People are not running away from the internet. It turns out it's not a fad. They're using it, and they're going to continue to use it. And I don't know where it's all going, but I want to give you one rendition of where Zillow may be headed. And by the way, if you use Zillow, I'm not saying you should stop tomorrow. I'm not a Zillow hater. I believe that everyone should pay Zillow enough to own the leads that come in on your deals. Meaning, become a preferred agent and own, if you're a listing agent, you got to at least own the leads on your deals. It's outrageous we have to pay protection money for our own leads, but that's just where we are. But think about what Zillow did. It was really smart. They come into existence right here and they say, realtors, you guys hate lead generating as an industry. We get it. We love you guys. We get it. We'll do that for you. Just pay us and we'll send you leads. And the realtors are like, awesome, I'm in. And then they go, this has been working so great for us. We love you guys. We've noticed that you don't even call the leads we sell you. You guys are so zany. Anyway, we've developed a new system where we'll actually call them for you.
Right.
Like, we'll call them, we'll incubate them, we won't even waste your time. And the realtor's like, you do love me. I'll take it. And they're like, this is so wonderful. But here's the thing. See, now that we're creating the leads and we're calling them for you, we went out, and it's because we care. We wanted to make your lives even easier. So what we did is we created our own CRM, which you don't know what it stands for because you're realtors, but trust me, you need one. And so just put all your customers into it. And this will make sure that you never leave anyone behind and everyone gets a call. And we're like, it's free? And they're like, kind of. We're like, okay. And then they're like, so this is wonderful. Because now we have all these people in the CRM, and what we noticed is that you guys don't read all your emails because you get so many. So we created this little widget that sits right inside the CRM that will actually monitor your Gmail accounts for you. And if a lead comes in from any other source, it'll automatically put it into the CRM for you. That way no one gets left behind. We call it API. You'll love it. Sign here. We're like, can I DocuSign it? And you're like, yeah. And you're like, then I'm in. And they're like, fantastic. And then they say, hey, this is working out so swimmingly. How about this? We make it even easier for you. You see, we don't want you to ever waste your time running around town with a buyer that's not qualified. So we went out and bought a bank. Trust us, it's in your best interest. Your local guy, what do they know? So we'll call all your people and we'll pre-approve them for you so you never waste your time again. And you say, well, wait a second. I have a great local lender who throws awesome parties. I'm going to stay with that. And they're like, well, that's misguided, but it's fine. Stay with them, except on everything that we give you. That has to be ours. You know, that makes sense, right? And realtors are like, okay, I guess that makes sense, sure. And then they're like, fantastic. This has been working so well. Here's what we did. We went out and we got our own Authentisign and DocuSign. And it works seamlessly through our app, which is so convenient for you because way back at the beginning, the consumer had to download our app if they even wanted to become a lead for you. And that's where they're going anyway on a monthly basis to look at homes. So now your whole transaction can live right inside of our app. Don't even bother thanking us. And you're like, oh, okay. And then we're here. I want to tell you, everything I just described has already happened. And in some markets, it's been more intense than others, but it's all happened. Now, what's the next logical step? I don't know. I'll give you one that really worries me. Hey, a realtor, it's Zillow again. Here's the thing. Now that the consumer is completely comfortable with our app, and since we're the ones that made the relationship on them, and since it's our bank, and since they're using and you're using kind of our CRM, here's the thing. We don't really need you much anymore. So you can still do the deals, but we're only going to let you make $500. That would be scary to me. But it doesn't seem like that big of a jump. Here's another one. Hey, this is great, but instead of paying for the lead, you get to pay for it, but then we also want a 35% referral fee when you close it. How many realtors would gladly pay a referral fee like that for leads? What if it was 50%? What if it was 75%? I want to tell you, it could be 90%, and a bunch of realtors who aren't making a living are going to line up to pay. Evidenced by the way real estate used to be in the 80s. Real estate in the 80s was mostly, and if you go to the big houses, it was reload type business that ran through Sendnet once all the consolidation was done, and realtors lived to get referral type transactions that were moving into their towns. That's why they stayed at the brokerage houses they were at. Then the balance of power shifted. And the balance of power up until, about 10 years ago when Zillow was born, was 100% on the side of the realtor, not the broker. You see, the relationships lie with us. We're the ones who are in control of the transaction, not under that scenario. I want to start talking to you about the solution, I think, because I've just beat up all the problems to death. Here's what I think the solutions are. I'm going to go through them one at a time with you. Number one, you have to get really clear on the fact that if 44% of all the deals that happened last year were referral from past client or SOI, we have to reconnect with our people immediately. We have to take our people back. Raise your hand if you have past clients or customers that you have not spoken to in the last 120 days. Honestly. Now, keep them up and look around this room. You guys are the top producers in this whole town, and every one of you. Imagine what the other part of the people that couldn't get into this room would say. I guarantee you they haven't called. When you're not calling them, do you know who is calling them? Zillow, every other site trying to vie for their attention. And by the way, I know we're all friends right now, but everybody else at your table would take anyone out of your SOI tomorrow if it meant they could take a listing. That's what's awesome about the residential real estate business. But realize we're down to 44% of the sales are referral. That's a nightmare scenario. That's crisis levels. You realize if that number gets to 0, we're all out. They won't need us anymore. And we're never going to get it back to 100, but we have to start holding the line at the very least, which means you have to communicate with your customers and past clients far more often. I want to give you all of the things we do to do that. I'm going to give them to you in rather quick succession. Number one, we use slide dial a lot. If you're not using slide dial, you have to look at it. Those of you that are using it, think about how you're using it. Slide dial allows you to bypass any risk of them answering the phone. So you're just dropping a voicemail. It's like the secret to my whole marriage. And it's crazy. For 3 years I've been sending my wife voicemails. She goes to Verizon once a month to try to figure it out. I'm like, honey, I don't know. I don't work at Verizon. I'm not thinking. Anyway, if you can touch your entire data bank with a voicemail in 3 minutes, you're crazy not to. It doesn't matter what you say. You can just say, hey, it's Jason. Your phone didn't even ring. Weird. Anyway, I know it's Halloween. I know everyone's really busy this time of year. Just call me back if you want to talk about real estate. Click. They're not going to look at that as an impersonal touch. It's never going to occur to them you drop that for 500 other people. It's just not. And the only ones that are going to call you back are the ones that want to talk about real estate. Who in here, is anyone geographically farming in here? Do you have any farmers? You guys should be using slide broadcast. If you're sending mail to a farm, bookend everything you send with a slide broadcast on both sides. Hey, the newsletter is coming, check your mailbox. Hey, the newsletter came out, call me if you want to tighten up your housing values, whatever it's going to be. Slide dial is the easiest way to connect. Who in here is phone prospecting? Anybody doing regular phone prospecting? I tell you what, if you want to change the way that feels on a daily basis, instead of having your agents dial out every single day, do them a favor. And once every 2 weeks or twice every month, whatever you want to do, load in 5,000 phone numbers and drop a voicemail for all of them, asking them to call you back. And let them sit in a room with the phones ringing off the hook for a day. And answer instead of dialing out. It'll change the whole way they're looking at it. That's a really powerful way to touch a lot of people. The next thing that we do is mass text messaging. If you're not doing mass text messaging or reaching out to your customers in that way, you're making a huge mistake, especially as the consumer base becomes younger. Now, the good news is that the millennials, by the way, if you are one, don't give me the looks. I don't need it. But they're not buying houses right now. It's cool. They're living at home. It's awesome. It's okay. Highest percentage of that age group ever is still living at home. 26% is still living with mom and dad. It's awesome. But as they start to move out, as their parents start to will them money, they will want to use text messages more often. And your customers want to use text messages more often. You got to send text regularly. And you need a technology to do it. The piece of technology that I think that matters the most in the real estate business today is the CRM. You really have to have a CRM. And your CRM has to do 3 things. Here's the compass for a CRM. Number 1, does it have IDX? Meaning, can I send out properties and searches from the CRM? We're going to talk about why that matters. Number 2, does it do mass text messaging? If it doesn't, you're using some outdated thing that's no longer relevant. And number 3, is it scalable? And does it bring new people into my world? Ostensibly, what we're doing here is, does this piece of technology bring my current people closer to me, and does it bring new people into my business? If it doesn't do both, you don't need it. The mass text messages, you can send anything you want, but it's a great way to send news. Like when interest rates went up last week and we broke, what, 5? How many of you reached out and sent it to all the buyers in your data bank? Hey, guess what? You can afford less of a home today than you could yesterday. How much longer are you going to wait? Call me back. If you didn't text that to every buyer in your data bank, I think you missed an opportunity. I think we're constantly missing those opportunities. What we do is in each market that we're in, every Friday we send a mass text message. It talks about what's going on in the community that weekend. So I own an office in Oakland County, Michigan, right? So in Oakland County, on Friday, we let everyone know this time of the year what time any overrated college coaches are playing. Give times of both of those games. We do like what time the cider mills are going to be open, where the best pumpkin deals are. All of this stuff that seems meaningless to real estate. And then at the bottom of the text it says, but we're not going to be doing any of this. Text us or call us back if you want to talk about real estate. And we'll drop that to all 35,000 people in the database. In Vegas, every Friday we send out all the nightclubs for the week. Which DJ is going to be where, who's going to be playing. In Portland, I don't know I have all millennials in my Portland location. Portland's a weird place to begin with. I think they send out like vegan keto recipes on Fridays or something like that, which plays really well there. I don't know. I try not to go there. But something every Friday. So if you're doing the slide dial and you're doing the mass text message, you're really communicating a lot more than you are now. The next thing we use is sincerely.com, and we use it a lot. Sincerely.com is an app where you can take a photo with your phone and then pick from one of 500 postcards. Grab a postcard, write your message, click send, they print it out, put a stamp on it, and send it to your customer. Think like Christmas cards all year round. And no one throws out pictures. Like think about your house during the Christmas season. Don't you even put up ugly kids on your fridge? No one throws out that stuff. And the last thing, here's what you have to do. Here's the most important touch in everything we're talking about. You got to take the place of Zillow. You got to send comps to these people every 30 days at a minimum. If you do nothing else and you want to stay relevant, you got to start sending comps every 30 days. The reason is because it's so readily available, the average consumer is checking the value of their home now 2, 3, 4 times a year. It never used to be that way because there was this barrier, meaning they had to call a realtor, and no one wanted to do that. So everyone just lived without knowing what their house was worth. It turns out it wasn't that bad of a deal. They still moved when they needed to, when they got divorced 57% of the time, or fell in love, or had another kid, an accident kid. That happens to some of us, maybe not you, either way. Or decided you were going to have your 17th kid. Then you have to move. Now they check all year round. So Zillow knows what everybody is thinking about. Do you think, who in here, well, this is going to get awkward. I was going to say who's divorced. Don't do that, right? Let's do it like this. If any of you, and no one make eye contact with anyone else in the room or smile during this next video. Anyone in this room that's thought about separation at any point during your happy marriages, I want you to know your spouse went on Zillow. Because they knew you knew the value. And they were like, I'm going to show him. I'm going to know the value too. And then everyone looks for the lifestyle they're going to rent. They're like, well, I'm moving to the city where the beer is kept. They all do this. Zillow knows who's getting divorced well before the divorce attorneys do. I want to tell you. You guys need that visibility, which means that if you're sending comps every 30 days, you can start tracking the behavior of your consumer. So when they think about real estate, you want them to think about you. Well, how do you know they're thinking about real estate? They used to call us. They used to come to open houses. They used to do all of this stuff. Now they go online. And if they're going online to a company that you don't own, you cannot watch those behaviors, so you don't know. Send the comps every 30 days. Anybody that opens it gets a phone call from you. It's just that easy. Hey, I noticed that you opened the email. You got the comps I've been sending. Let me ask you this. Do you want me to help tighten up this value for you? Do you want me to come by the house? Are you making a change? Anything. Just some sort of compass to know who's thinking about housing. The problem is if you send this through the MLS, the data is really hard to use. You need to have a CRM that's connected to an IDX solution so you can send it through the CRM. That's why, currently I'm using a Commissions Inc. product because I'm sending it from the CRM. I'm then watching who's opening it on a regular basis. I'm then watching the rest of the behaviors they're exhibiting. Everybody is exhibiting the same behaviors online. Everybody. What they do is they look at stuff on their handheld device. Think about when you buy stuff online. That's expensive. Everyone in here's bought something for $500 online or more, even if it's airline tickets. Odds are you looked at your handheld device. Then you moved to either a desktop or a laptop because you got tired of trying to make it bigger. You know that finger move that we do? You got tired of that, and you just wanted to see it. Then you got to it online, and you looked at it, and you were like, I'm going to take it, and you pushed checkout, and you went all the way to checkout, and then you were like, no! And you fooled them, left, went somewhere else, and then went back the next day. And it was either a little bit more expensive, to which you were like, God, am I ever going to learn? Or it was the same price. Either way, you still bought it, and the computer already knew your credit card number, and your name, and your address. But it didn't know your 4-digit credit card security CSV stupid code. So you still had to get up and get your purse or your wallet and look at that card. Because no matter how many times you type it, you can't remember those numbers. Any of that happen to you people? It's happening to all of us. And the reason we know that is because everything we do online is now tracked. Not only is it tracked, but at the end of every single minute, it's loaded into supercomputers that try to make guesses about what we're going to do in the future. That's what big data is. It's about understanding your behaviors in the past and in the present to better be prepared to sell you stuff in the future. And everyone's vying to be the company that gets to sell it to you. Big data in real estate is no different. They all look on their handheld devices. Then at some point, ask yourself this. When you have somebody who really wants to buy a house, they ever call you and say, oh my God, the greatest house just hit the market? Like they know before you know. And you're in the real estate business. It's because their whole life gets centered around looking for houses. They don't just log in from their phone. They log in from their phone and from their work computer and from their home computer and from their bathtub with an iPad and their watch and God knows where else. Then they spend every day doing it. Do you know that as the average person gets within 2 weeks of buying a house, they check Zillow on average 6 times a day. They just keep checking. They're afraid. It's fear. They're terrified they're going to miss out on something or some great thing. And when they get focused on the activity, that's all they want to happen. So if you're not able to track when those behaviors are starting to happen, how do you know who to talk to and when? That's why sending out the comps and sending out the properties with frequency and intensity is so vitally important to taking our people back. Do you understand? Is this concept coming through loud and clear? If you're not doing it, somebody else is. For every one of your customers that's not getting this data from you, they're getting it from an online source, and they're becoming a pay-per-click lead, and they're being sold to that side of the room. How many of you think that you've bought each other's SOIs before? It's my favorite. I love saying that. And then everyone looks around and they're like, I hate that. That's what's happening. Where do you think these online leads are coming from? You think they somehow create more people in Grand Rapids? No, they're the same number of people. They're just reselling the same commodity over and over and over again. And it's not going to get any better. It works like this. And is anyone here deciding to bail out of the internet? Okay, cool. So this obviously isn't going to get any better. So what's going to keep happening is this staircase idea. And I've been drawing this now for 2 years, and I'm waiting for it to get old because I'm tired of it. But it hasn't gotten old yet. Because it's never going to get old. Because the internet is never going to change. Every single site is nothing more than these staircases. And here, on the way up, you have money. And down here, you have value. And so what happens is you go on any single site in the world, and for free, you get to search and do whatever you want. Gentlemen, think of all those sites you go to. Don't say them out loud. But you know exactly what you'd be there for free. Ladies, every shopping site, guys, Cabela's, it's all free. You can search for whatever you want for as long as you want. But there's almost no value in doing that because we're consumers. So you're on Amazon in boot season, ladies, and you're looking for shoes, boots. And you spend, 2 hours. And you're trying to get gold chunky heel red bottoms, because that's just what's hot right now. And so you're looking, and you find them, and it's a great deal. It's $1,800, and you're like, oh my God, it's so reasonable. And you say, I want it, I'll take it. And they say, fantastic. Would you like to get those overnighted? And you're like, what? Would I? Yes. And they're like, well, fantastic. Would you like to get everything overnighted for the rest of the year? And you're like, what? You mean it? Me? Yes. And they're like, great, welcome to Prime Staircase. We're thrilled to have you. And do you need a purse to go with it? And you're like, I really shouldn't. And they're like, 20% off today only. And you're like, oh, okay, I will. And then they're like, fantastic. And by the way, do you want to also get 60% off your entire purchase and open a card today? Nordstrom's has been saying that forever, every time you check out. Now Amazon says it. You're like, sure, I guess. And they're like, fantastic. Good news, we already know all your information. Just DocuSign here, and we're in. And it wouldn't have mattered, by the way, if you would have said no at any of these steps. They just would have taken you to a different staircase for the losers that say no. That's how it works. Every single email you get from a company that has a photo or an embedded link, it's designed for you to push it and take you from wherever you are in the virtual world and drop you somewhere else where they want you to be. Think about Facebook. When you click on an ad and it opens up in a new page, it's just transporting you, because all of us today exist in two places at once. We're in the physical world. You're sitting here, and I appreciate that, but you're also here in the virtual world. Your phones are sending, receiving data, sending out information. And a lot of you haven't even been on your phones during this whole thing, which I appreciate your attention. But I want to tell you, Facebook is freaking out right now. They're like, where is Jessica Tucker? She hasn't checked in an hour. Do you think she's okay? Was there an accident? They're watching you, and they want your attention 24/7. Now, all Zillow is, and all Realtor.com is, all these sites, all they are funnels. They live right here. And their sole job is to take people from where they are and drop them onto your staircases if you're buying online leads. That's it. So no matter where you are, they want to get you here. So I type in, and I always use this example, I type in weather Grand Rapids, because I know I'm coming here. And I get 10 different ways to check the weather. I get the Doppler, the 10-day, the 5, I get all this stuff. And in the right-hand corner, it says search for listings in Grand Rapids, which at first blush you wouldn't think are connected, but it is. Because how many people check the weather if you're moving to a new place? Everybody. How many people check the weather before they're going on showings? I know, and I don't think it's that different, but in Oakland County, it can snow and rain and be like 73 in the same day. And you need to know how to dress for that kind of stupidity, because this is a dumb place to live. And they check the weather. And as soon as they check the weather, they then click search listings, and now they are sitting at the top of a funnel. And then as they fall, it starts to ask them questions. What's your first name? What's your last name? What's your phone number? What's your email address? And by the time you fill it all in, you are now here. A pay-per-click lead on some realtor staircase. That's why all of your people are being sold to all of you people. And that's how it happens. And it's not going away. So here's what you need to ask yourself. Do I have any sort of staircase method to stay in touch with these people? If the answer is no, if the answer is I call them once and ask them if they want to buy a house, and then if they say no, I say they're losers, which by the way, if you're running a team, that's what your agents are doing, then what? That's a sidewalk. That's what happens. And we're out. Here's the math on this. The average consumer that falls into any funnel is in the realtor's pipeline for 19 months before they buy a house. 19 months. You have to have 19 months worth of options for that. Because if you call them and say, hey, let me ask you this. Do you want to go look at houses? No. Do you want to get pre-approved? No. Okay, bye. And then that's the end of it. And then we don't talk to them again. Now, all of a sudden, the options run out. This is why when you send comps or properties every 30 days or every 3 weeks or every 2 weeks, each time you send it, that's a staircase. They have an opportunity to click on it and come back into your world. If you're not doing anything like that, you're going to start losing out on more and more transactions. Because your customers, even the ones that have used you 3 or 4 times in the past, are going to start looking somewhere else. So you need a way to generate more leads and then keep them and have them getting stuff so they keep coming back. Everyone clear on that idea? The reason I'm beating this to a dead horse, by the way, is because this is all Zillow is. This is all Realtor.com is. This is all bold leads. All of those sites, this is what it is. And when you look up, have you noticed that the mega teams are doing more business than ever before? Like, whether you love teams or you hate teams, no one can dispute the fact that they are selling a lot of houses in this country. Why is that? It's certainly not because they know anything more about the neighborhoods. I tell you. It has nothing to do with customer service. I can tell you we are pretty much shit at that on my team. What is it then? What's the answer? Why are you watching expansion teams that are able to come into marketplaces? They don't even live there and they're able to do an unrealistic number of transactions. It's just because of this concept. This is all it is. They just really understand that these staircases have to go forever and they never let up. That's it. Now I want to talk about, if you guys don't mind, I want to talk about lead generation to some extent. Because we all need some more of that. But I don't want to just give you guys, if you're not using these platforms. Who in here said they were phone prospecting? Do we have any of those? So I'm going to give you 4 or 5 different tricks on what I think the segments of lead gen are that matter. The first one I want to talk about is phone prospecting, because, and I choose to make the phone my weapon of choice because it's the easiest to pivot when the market changes. Meaning that I used to be on the radio a lot. And what I found was that when the market changed and we went from short sale to traditional, I had to spend a lot of money changing my message, and it took the consumer a long time to catch up. And that was an expensive lesson. The phone, when the market changes, all you do is change the list on who you're calling from, and you can pivot your entire business in one day. That's why I choose to make the phone the weapon. Here's the key to, I think, phone prospecting. Number 1, you got to use an auto dialer. If you're not using an auto dialer, I think you're making a huge mistake. I use the Mojo auto dialer. I think it's the best one out there. It dials 3 people at a time, which means that if you do a 120-minute call session, you should have 105 minutes of talk time. It's never been that good. Technology has never been able to do that before. It's awesome. The second thing I do is I change what I'm dialing on. I refuse to just call expireds or canceled or circle prospecting because I think that's what everybody else is doing. So I go after exotic lists. The first one I call on is vacant houses. I love the vacant home list. Everyone says, well, how do they get that list? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I think they get a lot of the information from the utilities. Then I think police and fire are mandated to keep some of those lists because those homes get vandalized more often. And I think it's a whole bunch of other sneaky ways. I get it from a company called REWW. I think I pay $2,000 a year, and for that I can download by zip code all of the vacant homes. I think if your house is vacant, you're a motivated seller, period. I pound on that list. The next one that I go after is people that have owned their home for more than 25 years. I don't want to get into the morbid part of this deal. Let me just tell you, that's a good group. I want to tell you. Yeah, they're moving on, literally. And I love calling them. I get that from REWW as well. The next one that I get from that same company, I want people that have more than 70% debt to equity in their house. Meaning I want people that have a lot of pent-up equity. I want to help free that up for them. People that have a lot of equity should sell when the market's hot. Those, I think, are all great lists. The next group I call on, I get from a group called Rebo Gateway, R-E-B-O Gateway. From them, I get the divorce list. Anyone who's filed for divorce that day. Now, you can't call them and be like, how's your day? Like, you have to be a little more creative with your script work on this. And what happens, we call and we say, hey, we're calling everyone in your area. Feels better, right? Calling everyone in your area, and we know there are some days when knowing the actual cash value of your home, like what it would sell for in like 30 days if you were going to, was really important. Is now one of those times for you? Half of the people we call say yes, and the other half are very angry. So you got to give that system to someone with thick skin. Do not, key rule on this, if you have a team member who loves talking about their divorce, do not give them this list. Yeah, it's awful. It becomes like group therapy. The next group, and by the way, divorces, keep in mind, divorces I think are the single greatest thing to ever happen to the realtor. Like every time someone gets divorced, the marital home has to sell, and then each ex either needs to buy or rent. So, like, if you're not like friends with divorce attorneys and you're working more of a sphere of influence referral-based business, I'd go find a divorce attorney to throw my arms around. like right away. Divorce attorneys represent the single greatest opportunity for any of us. One divorce attorney who does 10 divorces a month is connected to 360 real estate deals a year. You better go get one. I introduce people all the time that I know are not going to make it. I'm like, you guys are perfect for each other. Because I'm trying to build out a pipeline for the future. I don't expect any of you to take it that far, but you got to at least go be friends with divorce attorneys. And if you've been divorced, no show of hands, but if you've been divorced, when was the last time you talked to your divorce attorney? If I'm you, I'm trying to still get the money back I spent on that. I'm calling that person every day. Who can you introduce me to? Who hates each other? That's the one you want. The next group is we call the eviction list. We get that from Rebo Gateway also. The eviction list is anybody that filed for eviction that day. Now here's what we found. That used to be a model to get low-end listings, which truthfully we don't really want. It's changed in the last 5 years because renting has become the new selling. There's a lot of affluent people that rented out their house, especially in my market, and I don't, maybe it's different here, but I had a lot of people that were going to retire to Scottsdale or to Boca, like everyone in my area goes to Boca twice a year. And instead of selling their houses, they just turned them into rentals because the margins were so good. If you have to evict someone and you're not a professional landlord, that process is awful. And if you're a regular person, a civilian, and you walk into a house where someone has been evicted and it looks like a foreclosure, that's really overwhelming. That's why anyone you call the day they evict someone is motivated. And the script we use is, hey, my name is Jason. I represent a group of investors that will buy houses. They want them with tenants already in them. Whether your tenant was great or like the worst tenant in the world, probably wouldn't happen to you, but even if it did, we would want that too, any interest. Anyone who filed for eviction that day is interested. Those are the lists that I think matter the most. We're testing, and we've been testing it now for about 6 months, and we really like it, the register to vote list. You can get that from Rebo also. It tells you if someone in a household is registered to vote. And our thinking is that that might mean that someone has turned 18 and that that family is going to become an empty nester in like 12 short years from now. So we want to be all over that group. And we are. We're trying to build out the pipeline. I think that's the key to phone prospecting. Here's what you have to grade it as. Every day that you get on the phone and phone prospect, you got to find 2 people that are going to sell or buy in the next 12 months. That's the goal for the day. Like if you want to know did I win the day or not, it's not how many appointments you set today. It's how many people did I identify that are going to sell tomorrow, that are going to sell within the next year. Now, Jeff Glover, who I love him to death, he would disagree with that. You see, his model is pretty interesting too, and it's something we should all talk about. He doesn't believe in this long-term nurture thing like I'm talking about. He says that every day there's going to be 10 expireds at least and 10 FSBOs at least. Does that sound accurate? That's 20 people that I can get an appointment with today. If I got 5 of them, we did average. If I got 10, we had a great day. It's really hard to poke a lot of holes in that system when you look at the number of transactions that that team is doing, but I just want to give you a different way to think about it. He's grading the phone by how many appointments we set. We're grading the phone by how many nurtures that we bring in. You have to know how you're grading it. So if you're not sure, go back and figure that out. Is everyone good on phone prospecting? Cool. Who in here was farming? Did we have any geographic farmers? Very few, so we won't even bother getting into geographic farming to any massive extent. Suffice it to say that I think it's the single greatest investment you could possibly make with your money. I think it's a much better investment than sending it to some financial advisor to talk about investing in companies that you'll never know anything about. Geographic farming is still an absolute sure thing if you do it. I'm really surprised that more of you aren't. I think you need to look at it. To the extent where here's the model that you should use if you're going to do it. I'll give it to you step by step. The model belongs to a guy named Kenny Klaus. Kenny controls 19% of Mesa, Arizona. Now, although Mesa, Arizona is a terrible place you should never visit, it's still 19% of any market is a lot. Here's what he does. He sends out 12 newsletters a year. Here's what the newsletter looks like. The first page is a letter from the realtor, updating on the market conditions. Here's what's going on in our farm area. The next page is an interview that he holds with a local small business owner. What he does is he goes out and he interviews them. And he does great questions. Why did you choose my marketplace? What's your biggest challenge against the big box stores? What item of value can you give to our customers? What do you love about Grand Rapids? What have you seen change in Grand Rapids? It's a true interview. And here's the deal he makes with them. I'll interview you. I'll send it out to free to everybody in the farm area, but you have to agree to allow me to keep my newsletters in your store every month for the next year. Keep in mind, at the end of that year, he's in 12 mom and pop spots in the farm area, which pretty much makes it look like he owns the place to any homeowner that happens to be frequenting these places. He also uses the interviews as the insurance against not getting any deals. Consider this. If you went out and interviewed 12 small business owners next year, one a month, is there any doubt in your mind that you wouldn't get a referral from one of them, at least one? Small business owners know about giving referrals. They know it's the lifeblood of our industry. There's no scenario where you could meet with 12 business owners and not get a deal out of it. It is a no-brainer. Then on the next page, he interviews a high school scholastic athlete. This is so manipulative. I love this. He does girls volleyball. And he asks the coach, who can I interview that encapsulates what you're looking for in sportsmanship and on a team? And they give him something. They give him Tammy. And so he calls. And he says to Tammy's parents, hey, coach said that your daughter exemplifies what it is to be a student athlete. We send out this newsletter. You've probably gotten it. We want to interview Tammy on what makes her so great. But we also want to interview you because she's only great because you helped her get that way. Can we come over next Wednesday evening and spend an hour? And they always say, everyone's excited about being interviewed. Everyone's like, yeah, of course. And then he's like, hey, do you mind if I bring a photographer? We need a headshot of Tammy. And as soon as you say that, the whole house changes in the next week. Like, mom's getting her nails done, the hair, everyone's getting a new dress, they declutter, it's a whole thing. Dad rushes home from work, everyone's there, and now all of a sudden they sit and they talk about, by the way, if you let someone talk about their daughter for an hour, how do you think they feel about you? They love you. They move emotionally closer to you the entire time. His theory is if I interviewed 12 of these, what are the odds that these parents are going to be empty nesters and that these kids are about to graduate and go off to college? It's really smart. He's in 12 households of people who are going to be empty nesters in the next 3 to 4 years. Add that to the 12 business owners, and now you're connecting with 12 referral sources and 12 new potential sellers over the next 3 to 4 years each year. And that's before any of the benefit of actually sending the letter. It's brilliant, I think. Then the last page, it's something to keep it sticky so they don't throw the newsletter out. It's a crossword puzzle or a Sudoku puzzle. It's something so that they can't throw it out from the mailbox to the house. Guys, that model, if you bookend it, you do a slide broadcast before the newsletter. Hey, the newsletter is coming. Check out page 2. Wait till you hear about Tammy. Then you have the newsletter. Then it's, hey, did you get the newsletter? Did you love it? Do you want us to come over and tighten up the value of your houses? You will own your farm area in a very short period of time. Now, Kenny took it to the next level. What he did is he went to the same school where he interviews the students, and he said, do you guys sell bottles of water at sporting events? And they were like, yeah. And he said, well, I want to donate all the water for next year. I just want the label to say, brought to you by the Kenny Klaus Real Estate Team. School thought that was a great idea. Free water that we can then sell. Who cares what the label says? And they're in. You can't buy a bottle of water in that town without his name on it. Every realtor hates him. It's awesome. He owns that farm area. So if you're not farming, and for the few of you that are, think about that. But if you're not, ask yourself why not. I would tell you it's some of the safest money you can spend. Who in here is door knocking? You have any door knockers? A couple of you guys? You should be backdropping it with technology. You should use Sales Rabbit. Sales Rabbit is the only way to ever knock on a door again. It was created by the cable TV companies. It is awesome. What you do is you put in an address. It'll give you the overlay of a community. Then it gives you the houses. So when you walk up to a house and you talk to them, you click on the house. It now turns green. That way you know which homes you've actually been to the next time you go through. Then it gives you a place to put in the notes. Here's the notes. You got to write something personal every time you knock on a door. By the way, this system was created by a guy in California. He makes over $1 million a year knocking on doors. And what's cool about him is he's like 70 some odd years old, and his wife pretty much runs the books, and she pays him per door that he knocks on. She's making millions. This guy, I think he gets $6 a door. And I said to her, it seems heartless. And she said, are you kidding me? He's going to live forever if I keep letting him walk this much. It's amazing. And what he does is he notes something personal. So when he comes up to a door and he gets mauled by some chihuahua, he's like, what's your chihuahua's name? She's like, Pepper. And he's like, okay, great, thanks. and he writes Pepper. And then he's walking to the house, he looks at Sales Rabbit 3 months from now, and he goes up to the door and he says, hey, and then he goes, Pepper, hey, how are you? And all of a sudden, this homeowner thinks that this guy cares about her. His mission in life is to get people to think he cares more than he might. That's all he does. And I want to tell you, in a popularity contest like real estate, that's enough. So if you don't have a way to put down the personal info when you're knocking on doors, you're missing the boat. Get an app to make it easier. Now, who in here is running a sphere of influence system of some sort? Getting referrals. Okay, we covered that at the beginning, and the key thing here was getting the property searches going out. How many of you, who's using an iPhone? How many iPhone use? Okay, everyone open up your iPhone for a second. And open up your contacts. And scroll to the very, very, very bottom of your contacts. Droid people, I don't know how to help you guys. Now you're going to see a number. What's your number?
1,035.
1,035. Ms. Tucker, what's your number?
2021.
2020. Who can beat 2021? What do you got? 3,097.
4,668.
4,698. 12,000 people. Now, ask yourselves, everybody, ask yourself the following question. Do I have more than this number in my CRM or less? And if you have less, which is what the majority of you have, let's solve that problem tomorrow. Because this was your CRM before you actually bought a CRM. Here's what you need to do. You need to go to the App Store, and you need to search for Contact Download. And you got to buy any of the free, again, it's a buy free joke. Thanks for your attention. You got to buy any of the free apps that let you download your entire contact into an Excel document. Then you need to take that Excel document and upload that into your CRMs. And then you need to get all those people on some property and comp searches ASAP. And get over the fact that it's going to be weird because some of these people, like the cab driver in New Orleans, you haven't spoken to since that drunken night. Just get past that. He doesn't care. He doesn't remember you either. It's okay. But there's no reason you should have 12,000 people. That's amazing, by the way. That's never happened. You should have 12,000 people in your phone book and have 400 people in your CRM. It doesn't make any sense. Everyone in this, keep in mind this. If you go out tomorrow and try to buy leads online, it's going to cost you between, call it $7 and $15 a lead if you're not buying them from one of the big ones like a Zillow or a Realtor. And if you're buying it from Zillow or a Realtor, you can spend $50 to $120 a lead. Now, all of those leads are free, and you already own them all. Everyone here should have just gotten richer. Just take your people back. That's where your people reside. I think it's a really important idea that very few people are doing. What else are you doing to generate leads? We covered prospecting, we covered farming, we covered door knocking, we covered SOI. Is there anything else anyone's doing on a really big level? Facebook. Let's talk about it. There's a couple of ways to do Facebook. You have buying stuff on Facebook, and then you have organic lifestyle posts on Facebook. Or you have property posts on Facebook. Here's what we know. There are 3 posts that you can make that garner the most traffic. By far and away, it's not even close. How do we know this? We know this because Facebook, 4 years ago, developed a real estate board. That real estate board has 19 seats. Of those 19 seats, I want you to know, don't worry, realtors have none of them. It's perfect. But what they do is they've been watching all this. Here's how this works. You have a post that you make. That post then needs to be, we call it a squeeze page, they click it, and it needs to open up a new page for them. Just like what happens to you when you go to real companies on there, that's ideal. So what is on this page and what is on this page? On this page, the first one that gets the most, coming soon. Everyone wants to think that they're getting access to something that no one else gets. Scarcity and exclusivity equals cool. It's the old nightclub model. It's the same thing here. Are you allowed to market coming soon listings in your marketplace? No? Perfect. You'll probably be the only one doing it then. Awesome. If I was you, I would use your home. That way the seller will never complain. I would do that tomorrow. It would have my house, and it would say, coming soon. Then it would take them to a page. And on this page, then, is a little info, and then a massive button. And this button says search all listings in, what county is this? In Kent County. Then when they click on this, they automatically get dropped into your CRM. That's the key here. That's how you aggregate new leads. The next one here, investor only. Investor only is crazy because less than 0.5% of Americans actually invest in real estate. Yet when they see investor only, they automatically think good deal. It's like catnip. They can't stay away from it. And they click it, they click it, they click it. And I'm like, this is amazing. And then here, all you do is put a picture of a terrible house that no one would ever buy. And then a huge button here that says search all investor only real estate. And they click it like crazy and they end up right back in the CRM. The last one here, lowest price home in Kent County. Just write lowest price home in the name of your county. And then put a picture of it. We know that home sucks. Like, I get it. That one smells like cats. I get that. They don't care as long as this button says search all listings. The key here is that they just keep clicking the search all listings. That's the easiest way to get the most number of leads off of Facebook without having to pay a lot of money for it. Now, Facebook then, you have to look at it as a lifestyle thing. Meaning that, do you make posts about your listings or about your cities or about your coming soon listings? The data says no. The data says people do not want posts about realtors' listings. They're not impressed with it. They don't want pictures of us at an open house, even if we're baking cookies. They just don't think this is that cool. So continue to do that at your own peril. The consumer is kind of turning off. They also really don't like these arguments about brokerage houses. They don't care what color your sign is. They're in a relationship with you. So when we go to the war zone and we go to the mattresses about whose broker is better, they all tune out and stop clicking on our stuff. It's a mistake. And by the way, the tech companies, they don't care what brokerage house we're at. They want to put all of us out of business. Now is not the time to be divided by virtual brokerage houses or brick and mortar brokerage. We have to come together as an industry, not get pushed apart. They really don't care. They want us all to go out. The next thing on Facebook, we run something called the Facebook system. I've been teaching this now for about a year. I see very little adoption on it, and I think it's the most powerful system that we run. My business partner hates it, which is probably why I like it so much. What we do is we do a direct message system. So instead of doing an open house, we let our agents do a Facebook system. This was born in Portland. We only have millennials there, and we make our agents, all of our agents nationwide do 120 minutes on the phone. They do one open house a week, and they have to keep in touch with their SOI by making phone calls. And our millennials in Portland said, we don't want to do open houses. They don't work. We were like, okay. And they were like, and we don't want to use the phone. It's stupid. And we were like, well, what do you people want to do here? And they said, don't call us, you people. And I knew then we had a real problem in Portland. We found a system that they love. And amazingly, a lot of the ones that were terrible on the phone are now making the most money. What we do is they have to have 60 two-way direct message conversations in 3 hours. So everyone knows what a direct message is. I'm friends with you. I send you a direct message. You get it on Messenger. You stop your life and have to write back to me. As far as I'm concerned, if you can have 60 of those, that's a great day's worth of contacts. I would challenge anyone here to have 60 real contacts. That's fantastic. In Portland, they open up their screens and they have to keep all of them open. And what we do is when they get to 60, they ring a bell and we come over and we count them. And if they have 60, we give them a piece of chocolate. And it's working really well there. I mean really well. Like surpassing. They love the chocolate. It's incredible. What we found is that it doesn't help them sell any more real estate in Portland. Mainly because our millennials don't have like a close sphere of influence in their towns like I might. So what happens is you have the United States right here, it's not to scale, and Canada. And I have a bunch of friends right here where I grew up. But the millennials, like, they grew up here, then they went to like 7 years of undergrad in Miami, then they became a chef, and then they became a writer, and then they taught fishing, and then they ended up in Portland, which is a perfect resume for a realtor. And so now they're here. And they've picked up friends all over the country. Guys, every one of those friends, listen to this really closely because you're in a market with only X number of home sales. Every single friend you have in Facebook is a referral commission check opportunity. You've got to start thinking of them like that. And you're not, and you're getting completely housed on this deal. We are in one of the only industries in the world where you're allowed to get checks for not doing anything from markets you're not licensed in. That's an amazing gift from the real estate gods. No one realizes that. You understand that the way that referrals used to work in real estate is they would go to like their real estate company who would then send it to a middleman who would then send it to a realtor, and the real estate company would keep the 30% referral? That's how it used to work. That's how it all worked. Now, any of these people represents a check for you. And by the way, it's all profit. This is really important. There's no admin costs. There's no time cost. There's no transaction coordinator. There's no way to screw it up. It takes no time. There's no legal liability, you legal eagles in the room. It is just an initial conversation and a paycheck. It's my only parts I like about this whole deal. The first call and payday. That's what the referral is. We try to get 50 a year. I'm sorry, a month. Trying to get 50 a month. We've never come anywhere close. That's why I can say it like that. We've never gotten higher than 36. But I want to tell you, you get 36 referral checks in a month if you're running a team, your entire P&L changes that month. And if you're a single agent, what if you just got 2 referral checks a month? Think about the math on that. Depending on where they are in the country, that could equate to more than one of your sales here because of the average sales price differences. Give one in Malibu and see how much money comes back. All I'm saying is when the market gets tougher, which yours is, having these mailbox money checks where all you do is wake up and go out and get your money becomes really, really nice. Start tracking your referrals. Any number you track gets better. If you're going to sit down and do business planning for next year, you better have a line item for referral checks received. Throw in this Facebook session. I don't care if you just do it once every 2 weeks. That number of referral checks will start going up. They answer your Facebook. That's how I use Facebook.
With referral checks, is that something you split between an agent?
Yeah, he's asking how we split referral checks with our agents. We split 50-50 on referral checks. Everything else, just in the way of full disclosure, our agents get to keep 30% of their listing commission and 45% of their buyer's commission on our team. And then we split referrals 50-50. How many of you, again, in here are running teams or on teams? And how many of you are single agent, sole proprietor? And how many is it single agent and an admin or a spouse you treat like a slave? Or same people raising. Yeah. So this is really interesting. Your marketplace in this room anyway is a microcosm of what's happening in the entire United States, where you have about 30% of the room that are either on teams or building them, and the rest are still sole proprietors working either by themselves or with an administrative assistant. The things we're talking about have to be done whether you're on a team or you're on your own. It doesn't make a difference. That's what's so neat about the technology that exists today, if you use it the right way. It allows you to do what the big teams are doing, even if you're alone. Think about this. The technology isn't what's bad. It's the people that control it and own it that may have different goals than we do. Like, the same technology can be used for good or bad. Think of like the radio, which in this country spreads free speech no matter how repugnant most of it is from coast to coast. Yet that same technology in North Korea is used to give propaganda and enslave their population. The same technology that keeps us free lets totalitarian governments keep their people in some form of bondage. The same tech. It's the same thing in real estate. You can allow Zillow to use that tech to keep your people, or you can choose to fight back and take your people back. But you have to make a choice and pick up some sort of a weapon and stand a post, or we're going to lose. And when everyone in this room can raise their hand and say, I've been ignoring my past customers, by the way, it's not because you're not great realtors. It's because you are great realtors that happens. You don't have enough time to talk to your past customers. I get it. It's not like you decided between go out of business or call your past. It was make more money. That's what the team's challenge is. Understand that every agent on a team is there for the sole purpose of ruining that team owner's life. That's how this goes. And by the way, that's the natural progression of things. Because the team owner says, hey, I need you to call all these people that have been in our database for 20 months. And the person on the team says, yeah, but I really want to go watch my son's soccer game today. And so in order for them to live and enjoy their life in the present, they have to kind of ruin yours in the future because your database goes unworked. And what happens is we look up at these teams, and they're not real teams. They're not cohesive units. They're globs. They're a group of people connected by one person's credit card. And when we look around the country, a lot of these teams are really globs, and as the market changes, you're going to watch a lot of them go out of business, which is going to be a great opportunity for all of you guys. Because every agent that goes out of business leaves behind a data bank of people. So I want to give you something to think about. For those of you that are in big offices, that have full of people, that have to recruit, 10 a month in order to, net 5. Let's just say that was something. Every time someone leaves your office or gets out of the real estate business, you should be sitting down with that person and having coffee and doing kind of an exit interview. Asking what happened. Why are you getting out of the industry? Not to try to talk them into staying. Thank God they're off to go waste someone else's time. Let them go. But something happened to their data bank. Right now, to them, it has a value of 0. To you, it has an amazing value. You should be getting into a relationship with all these realtors who are going to start to fall off and saying, you've been marketing to your sphere of influence. Let me continue to do that. And anyone who close will give you 10%. They're going to go to worth 0 for you. I'm suggesting I can keep this going for you. Why would you ever not let that happen? Guys, this is the biggest mistake I made the last time the market changed. I didn't do this. And I watched a few agents on the West Coast who did, who brought in all of these people's data bank and came into the new market with tens of thousands of more people and did tons of new transactions. You might not want to do that many deals, but if everyone that left your market, you grabbed their data bank, their closest people, continued to market to them, how many more deals would you do in 19? How many more deals would you do in 20? I think that that's one of the greatest opportunities in front of us. And the last thing that I want to leave you with in this regard on this lead gen side is, do you remember when we used to do the new buyer seminars? We used to do those all the time, where we bring buyers in and explain home ownership. There's an opportunity here right now that no one's taking advantage of for this again. Except it's not new buyers and home ownership. It's gift letters. Gift letters are at an all-time high. The baby boomer generation has amassed more wealth than any generation before it, and the only way to get those kids out of the house is to give them the money. I'm not making this up. That's what the data shows. We're starting to run this on the West Coast. I think it's going to work really well. I would implore you guys to try it. Bring in your baby boomer clients. Maybe you take them to a nice dinner, a steak dinner or something. Bring 10 or 15 of them together. Bring in Treadstone to talk to them about the gift letter. Let them become experts in it. How do you give a gift letter? What are the tax benefits? How does this whole thing work? Then at the end of it say, if you guys are even thinking about gifting money for your kids to buy a house, get your kid in here next weekend on Saturday. We're going to do a 4-hour workshop on home ownership. Why it's a good investment, how to take care of a home, what's time, we're going to teach them about taking the gift that you're going to give them and making sure they don't squander that opportunity. I want to tell you, even if they don't do the deal, they will love the fact that you tried to educate their adult children. They won't go anywhere else. By the way, this gift letter thing is happening either way. I think you can grab onto it and take hold. Guys, I want to leave you with 2 parting thoughts. Number 1, let's not be separated right now. It's the wrong time in history. Let's come together and share our best practices more often. Number 2, you may choose to not adopt any of the technology that we talked about today. But understand that your competition is going to. Which means that you're either going to play offense or defense. You're going to be on one or the other. The best way to do it is at least to arm yourself with the education about it so that when it happens and as it continues to change, you don't get caught flat-footed. It's an honor for me to get to do this. I'm grateful. Thanks for having me.